All right. Welcome to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It is your host, Rob, aka B-Ball Archives, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Thank you for joining me this holiday season. We've got some good topics to talk about. Of course, on this Spurs podcast, we're going to be talking about Wemby. That is an absolute given. Any and every time I am on this microphone, we gonna be talking about Victor. That is a for sure every single time. We're also going to be talking about the Clippers and what's going right with them. They've won 9 out of the last 10, and there's a lot of positive in LA, and we're not talking about with the Lakers. So stay tuned for some Clippers chat as well. And we're going to be answering the question, are the Pistons right now, the 23-24 Pistons, the worst team in NBA history? We're going to be answering that here in a little bit. And I'm also going to do this new segment called Rapid Fire Rob, where I'm just going to be going through a few topics, just rapid fire, how I'm feeling about it, what I'm thinking. And I'm also going to be doing some Christmas game predictions. So all of that coming up right flipping now. Okay, so we're diving into some Wembanyama chat. So far, we're 20-something games into the season. Wembanyama looks great. His defensive impact can be felt immediately when you're looking at his ability to block shots and get steals. It's already at an elite level. I'm not going to say that this kid's the second coming of Akeem Olajuwon, but he looks like he's the closest thing to it. I was completely wrong about my 35 win prediction. I mean, I was on State of the League podcast. I was on Hoops Temple podcast, and I was saying that the Spurs, if they were healthy and they were able to stay together and continue to build this season, that I could see them winning 35 games. I was incredibly wrong about that. I think that's one of the cool things about making sports content is that you can be really wrong with your opinion, with your prediction, and then you grow from it, you learn from it, and then you kind of gauge how to approach things in the future. So I think, it was me just kind of having some lofty expectations about this season, but I think we're figuring things out. I mean, obviously, our record's rough. Our record is atrocious. We're one of the worst teams in the NBA for very obvious reasons. We're not closing out games. We look very, very inexperienced when we're distributing the ball, even though we're one of the league leaders in assists per game. I think we're either third or fourth in assists per game. But that doesn't mean our offense is flowing smoothly. You could see Victor's numbers, and he's averaging 19 points a game, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks a game, a steal and a half, and you may think, oh, why aren't we winning with this young guy in our lineup? And it's just, it's tough to sort of see how everyone else fits around him this early on. And there's a lot of Spurs fans who are upset about it, and I sympathize with you. But if you thought we were going to have all of this figured out pre-All-Star break, then you're dreaming, buddy. You are absolutely dreaming if you think a team this young is going to have all the kinks figured out before the All-Star break, their first season together. That's just lofty expectations, to say the least. But yeah, there's areas where Victor can improve. I mean, he's only shooting 28% from 3. That's a clear thing that can obviously get better about his game. I think whenever he figures out when to take threes, when to not take threes, when to settle for, I have the smaller opponent on me. Why am I not taking him further into the paint to take advantage of that? I think he's still figuring out those moments. So yeah, there's a lot of positive there within the layer of all the negative. I know there's so much negative, but there's some positive as well. For instance, we saw a shift whenever we moved Zach Collins back to the bench and Wembanyama was playing more 5. I think we saw him have a greater defensive impact. He was roaming around the paint more as opposed to being brought out towards the three-point line more and more. So you're seeing his impact just increase a little bit with just that little change right there. So imagine how many little changes like that the Spurs are going to have over the next calendar year to make this team more effective, to make this team more efficient. The Spurs need to make a big move, obviously, to get a dynamic scoring opportunity creating point guard within their lineup. I don't think that needs to happen this season. We don't need to jump the gun and try to bring somebody in that may or may not potentially fit long term. But within the next year, 2 years at longest, we're going to be making a move for that dynamic guard. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yes, you can tell Victor really cares about winning. That's one of the most important things to me is you can tell that this guy is visibly affected by losing games. He's not disheartened to the point where he's going to let it drag him down, but you can tell that he's a young guy that wants to win basketball games. And as a 19-year-old coming into the NBA, even if he is the number one overall pick, it's still so refreshing to see him have that competitive nature. That isn't always guaranteed with number one picks. Let's just be frank. That competitive nature does not exist with everybody. But I'm glad it exists with Victor because he's looking great, even though the Spurs are looking far from it. But yeah, let's talk about a team who is looking great. We're talking about the Clippers. Like I said earlier, they've won 9 of their last 10. They got off to a really rocky start after the James Harden trade. I was one of the biggest criticizers of that trade. I was openly saying, why do you want to bring in a guy like James Harden when you already have large mouths to feed when you're talking about Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and then you have guys like Norman Powell and Ivica Zubac who already had clear defined roles within that team. Why would you bring in James Harden, another big mouth to feed, and a guy who you're going to have to question his work ethic and you're going to have to question what he's going to bring to your team? But I'm eating those words right now. I'm definitely eating those words right now. I know it's a small sample size, so I'm not saying that this is a for sure win for the Clippers, but it's looking like a for sure strong step in the right direction. And if this team can stay healthy and can stay, here I am saying it again about the Clippers. If this team can stay healthy, imagine what they can do. They got me again. The Clippers, they literally suckered me into saying this again. How do they keep doing it? But they're 7th on offense. They're 8th in defense. They're currently sitting at, I think, 4th in the West right now. Sorry, I don't have the standings in front of me. And they have that core nucleus around Kawhi, Paul George, Harden, Russell Westbrook, and then, Norman Powell, Ivica Zubac, and then, even guys like Trey Mann coming in and playing 20 minutes a game and providing a lot of effort to that rotation. So there's a lot of positives in Clipperland right now, which is really strange to say, but hats off to the Clippers for playing really, really good, efficient basketball right now and not letting their personalities get the best of them, because you're seeing moments where Harden and Russell Westbrook are really enjoying their time together, and to me, that's the X factor. We're never going to question whether or not that core has the skill. We're never going to be like, oh, wow, if they figure out how to put the ball in the bucket, they'll really be a good team. No, that's not the issue. It's, can those big personalities gel together? And it seems like they're getting to a point where they can. It seems like maybe their age and getting a little bit older is releasing some of that ego attached to their game. And I got to say, it looks like it could be successful. I don't want to just throw that out there because I've been so wrong about the Clippers in the past. But it looks like it could work out. It looks like it could work out. They're actually playing like a complete unit for the first time in a while. But yeah, I think it's positive, but I need to see a bigger sample size. If I'm still sitting here right before the All-Star break and we're talking about the Clippers in this elite way still, then yeah, I will probably be buying in more. But give me a couple of months and I'll get there. But yeah, let's move on to a team I don't buy at all. Are the Pistons the worst team ever? I mean, we're looking at the 11-12 Bobcats, the 15-16 76ers, pretty much any Vancouver Grizzlies year. I mean, I don't mean to shit on the Grizzlies, but like Vancouver Grizzlies were rough there for like a few years. I mean, I know they were a new franchise at the time, but still, is this Pistons team worse than all of those teams? Is this Pistons team the worst team in NBA history? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because they are actually trying to be good. This is a team that they started rebuilding years ago, several years ago. Let's go ahead and call it a few years ago. But then you're not really making the right moves to rebuild, even though you're bringing in young talent, you're drafting decently well. I mean, obviously, Cade Cunningham not playing enough games last year is going to be rough. You know, he only played 12 games last year, but this year, he's looking like one of the bright spots. He's averaging a career high in points, assist, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. He's picking his game up a little bit, but everyone else around him is really failing. I know Jalen Duren's been banged up a lot this season. Bogdanovich missed the beginning part of the season, which that's another head-scratching point. If you are truly dedicated to a rebuild and you're saying, hey, we want to give these young guys the keys, why are you bringing back Bogdanovich? It's just questioning move after questionable move, and you're sitting there wondering, what are the Detroit Pistons doing? They've lost 25 straight games. I don't know when they're going to get another win. I really hope it's not against my San Antonio Spurs in January. But at the end of the day, we are the two worst teams in the NBA, so that could very easily happen. I hope the Detroit Pistons and the San Antonio Spurs doesn't end up like that, but you never really know. Pistons right now have the 28th ranked offense, 26th ranked defense, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any better from there. Monty Williams already looks like he is checked out. In post-game conferences, he's saying it is what it is. This is what the team looks like right now. And it just seems like he has the wrong attitude for where his team is. He needs to be standing up for his team a little bit more and trying to get a win every now and then to really instill some confidence within that team, even though you're not playing for a playoff spot. You're not playing for any kind of real hardware this season, but at least put a good foot forward to where some of these games are competitive, and a lot of them don't even look competitive. But some of the bright points for the Pistons, I mean, when he's been healthy, Jalen Duren looks great. I mean, he's a rebounding machine. He's very ferocious down low. He's a very hard dunker. I'm not going to lie. I would hate to be in the paint when he's attacking. He looks good. Asar Thompson, one of the best handful of rookies out of this class. His defensive capabilities are swarming. His ability to rebound is excellent. Obviously, the kid's only shooting like 15% from beyond the arc, so he's leaving a lot to be desired in that category. But I believe in him. I believe that he's going to find his way to becoming a decent shooter. And if he can be a decent shooter and accompany that defense with some semi-reliable offense, he can be a high-impact player. So there's some positives there, but I'm just not buying Detroit Pistons at all. It's like I don't see when this train of games is going to stop. I mean, I think we all looked at that Jazz game recently as the game where if the Pistons get it together, they can beat that Jazz team. That Jazz team was missing, I think, 8 players, and their best players too. And it's, oh man, if you're not capitalizing on that kind of opportunity, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so, to me, this is the worst team in NBA history that has been actively trying to win some games, and that just doesn't look like they're desperately and purposefully tanking. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the 11-12 Bobcats. Maybe that's the case. There was some like a 76ers team. I think it was the 73, 74 76ers that were absolutely terrible. There's a lot of teams throughout the NBA history that only won about 10, 15% of their games, but I'm questioning if Detroit will even win that much. I'm questioning if they will even win that much. So yeah, I think Detroit Pistons are the worst team in the NBA and the worst team in NBA history. So yeah, long story short, and it's depressing to say it like that and to talk about it like that in that way. But it's always darkest before the dawn. So that saying is a thing. So let's move on. I know that's kind of a rough segue right there, but let's just move on to the segment I'm calling Rapid Fire Rob, where I'm just going to do some rapid fire rants. Maybe they're going to be quick. Maybe they won't. I don't know. It's just going to be a couple of them. But yeah, some topics I'm feeling very strongly about. And one of them is Joel Embiid right now. He's doing something incredible. Joel Embiid is currently averaging more points per game than minutes per game. The last time anyone did this was the 61-62 season, and it was done by Wilt Chamberlain. Absolutely crazy. The logistics of scoring more points per game than minutes per game you are playing is bonkers to me. Like there's kids in high school that don't even achieve that, and there's no defense being played on them. And I know what the comments are going to say. Embiid's a free throw merchant. Well, if I was drawing as many fouls as Embiid would, I would score that many points in that many minutes. But the point is that he is getting it done in little to no time, and he's doing it efficiently. He's getting the ball at the top of the key. That's one of the things that Nick Nurse has been instilling in this offense very nicely. He's getting the ball at the top of the key, and he's essentially lulling that defender to sleep. With some pump fakes, with some jabs. He's getting a lot of good mid-range shots where he's just literally shooting over the top of whoever's guarding him. And then when they bite and they collapse on him a little bit, dribble, fouled more often than not. And it's working beautifully. So I got to give Joel Embiid a ton of credit. And he just passed Wilt Chamberlain for most 30-10 games in 76ers history. So he's just passing Wilt Chamberlain all over the place right now. And so I got to give a shout out to Joel Embiid right now as a part of my rapid fire rant. The next part of my rapid fire rant, I'm talking Celtics haven't lost at home yet. They're 14-0 at home. Who will be their first home loss? Let's break it down. They are not going to lose to the Pistons on the 28th. I don't think they're going to lose to the Jazz on the 5th. But I think the T-Wolves on January 10th, that's when they're going to lose. I'm not saying it's going to be for sure, but if I was a betting man, I think that's going to end up being their first home loss. So leave a comment in the comment section. When do you think the Celtics will get their first home loss? Yeah, I think that's going to be definitely an interesting topic because right now the Boston Celtics are playing great basketball. They look tremendous, and I got to say, I agree with what everyone's been saying. When that lineup is healthy, when you look at Drew Holiday, Derek White, Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis, that is the best starting five in basketball, period. They complement each other so well, offensive, defensively, everything you could want from a starting lineup, it's there. It's there. So, got to give a shout out to Celtics right now. Next thing I'm going to be doing, Christmas game predictions. I'm going to be predicting all of the games on Christmas. Let's see how I do. So we're going to be talking about Bucks versus Knicks. I'm taking Bucks by 13. Next game, Warriors Nuggets. I'm going Nuggets by 6. Celtics Lakers. I'm taking Celtics by 12. The 76ers Heat. I have the Heat upsetting the 76ers. They're going to win by 5. And Mavs versus Suns. I'm taking the Mavs by 8. How did I do? Yeah, I'm excited to see how I did, but to be brutally honest, I'm probably gonna miss some of these games. I'm historically bad at guessing Christmas wins. So we'll see how I do in the aftermath of all this holiday basketball. But yeah, I want to end this episode with a little thing I'm gonna call Spurs what I would ask for Christmas. Santa, help me out a little bit with this. So, Santa, I'm going to want a dynamic point guard. Spurs need a dynamic point guard. I know you got one lying around the workshop. Hook me up. Somebody that can hopefully grow alongside of Wemby, buy into the Spurs team first system. Somebody that, you know what, I'll even take somebody who's inefficient now with a lot of upside. Come on now. I'm not even asking for a finished product right now. Just give me somebody that can grow alongside of Wemby. Just somebody that can be a number one point guard option in the future. Please, Santa, I know you got one of those lying around the workshop, so I'm going to need you to hook me up immediately. But that being said, that's been another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. I appreciate y'all for spending a portion of your holiday with me, going over some of these topics, chatting a little bit about the recent state of the hoops scene right now. But like I said, there's going to be some craziness in the Spurs' future, but right now it's looking bleak. But that being said, it is always go Spurs go.